You know that advice everyone gives you, follow your passion? Well, what if that's actually terrible advice? Today, we're diving into the really controversial arguments from a book that says exactly that. It claims your college major's value has absolutely nothing to do with your dreams and everything to do with cold, hard economics. And boom, right out of the gate, the book hits you with this quote. It's from a graduate who did everything she was supposed to do, right? Studied hard, got amazing grades, even studied abroad, and she still ended up unemployed. The author argues her story isn't just bad luck. It's a huge, flashing warning sign for everyone. And Jackie was definitely not alone. The book kicks off by highlighting a whole bunch of graduates, all with different degrees, who were all in the same boat, struggling to find work. We're talking international studies, English, and even, yep, you're reading that right, a Master of Arts in puppetry. The author uses these stories to build his case that the problem isn't the students, it's the majors themselves. And that leads us right into the core of his argument, what he provocatively calls the worthless degree problem. He's basically saying that these stories of unemployed grads aren't just sad accidents in a tough economy. He thinks they are the totally predictable results of a deeply flawed way of choosing what to study. So, what does he actually mean by worthless? It's really important to get this because this is his term. For him, a worthless degree has zero to do with how interesting or important a subject feels. It's a purely economic label. It all comes down to one question. Is there a real demand in the job market for the skills this degree gives you? Okay, so if some degrees are worthless in his view, then what makes a degree, well, worthwhile? He argues it's not some big mystery. It all comes down to a fundamental economic principle he calls the iron law of value. And it boils down to something brutally simple. According to this book, the job market could not care less about your passions. It works just like any other market out there, on the basic principles of supply and demand. That's it. The supply of people who have your skills versus the demand for those skills in the economy. To really hammer this home, he uses this fantastic analogy. Think about it. Why does a pro athlete make millions while a teacher makes, well, not millions? The author says it's just pure economics. On one hand, the supply of people who can hit a baseball at an elite level is tiny, insanely rare. And the demand? Millions of people will pay good money to watch them play. On the other hand, while teaching is incredibly important, the supply of people who can become teachers is huge. The market, he says, just rewards rarity and high consumer demand, no matter how we feel about it. And it's not just analogies, right? The author brings out the numbers to back this up. This chart here shows average starting salaries back in 2009, and it really paints a picture. You can see a clear pecking order based on what he calls market demand. Engineering grads with their rare technical skills started way up at the top. And down at the bottom, humanities and social sciences, where he claims there's a huge supply of graduates competing for few jobs. He drives this point home with another great analogy, the medieval village. He asks you to picture this, a small, self-sufficient village. You've got the baker, the blacksmith, the farmer. Every single person produces something real that everyone else in the village actually needs to survive. His point is that our modern economy, when you strip it all down, isn't that different. The most valuable people are the ones who produce goods and services that the other villagers want and are willing to pay for. Okay, so he's laid out the problem, a total mismatch between the skills students are learning and what the market actually wants. So, what's the solution? Well, the next part of the book is all about that, outlining exactly which majors he believes are worthwhile in today's economic village. The author's formula for success is actually pretty straightforward. His first step, and the one he says is non-negotiable, is you have to embrace math. In his world, tough math skills are the foundation for almost every high-value career. From there, his advice is pretty clear. Either major in a STEM field, or, as a powerful alternative, go learn a skilled trade that provides a direct, in-demand service. So what does that look like in practice? Well, here are some of the specific majors the book holds up as being economically sound. You see the pattern here, right? They're almost all heavy on the math, and they lead to very clear, defined jobs where there's high demand for people who know their stuff. Fields like engineering, biosciences, and specific business roles like accounting, they're all at the top of his list. And this quote really gets to the heart of his belief. For him, math isn't just a class you have to suffer through. It's the key to financial freedom. He completely rejects the idea that some people are math people and others aren't. He says it's all about effort, not talent. And in his framework, being willing to wrestle with the math is the single biggest predictor of whether you'll be financially successful. And it's not just about a 4-year university degree. The author has a ton of respect for the skilled trades, and he presents them as a really smart, practical, and often high-paying alternative. A plumber, an electrician, a certified mechanic, these jobs, he argues, provide a direct, valuable service to the village. They give you a specific, marketable skill, often with way less time and debt than a bachelor's degree, and can lead to a much more stable career than many of the liberal arts fields. All right, so we've seen the majors he recommends, but of course, for every list of good majors, there's the other side of the coin. And the book spends a lot of time on the fields of study that the author believes are basically financial traps that students should avoid at all costs. And whoa, that list is long. It covers pretty much most of the humanities and social sciences. His core criticism is always the same. He claims these fields have you studying things, but not learning how to do things that are in demand. For instance, he'd argue that while reading philosophy is fascinating, it doesn't train you for a specific job that the market will pay for, unlike learning how to, say, build a computer network or manage a company's finances. So you might be asking, if these majors don't have market value, why do they even exist? Well, the author has this, let's call it a cynical concept he calls the circle of why bother. This is his term for majors where the main career path is to get an advanced degree so you can become a professor and teach that exact same subject to a new generation of students. He sees it as this self-perpetuating loop that just exists inside universities, but doesn't produce much of anything for the outside world. And he even uses a little pop culture to drive the point home, referencing a line from the TV show Archer. When the best job prospect for someone with an anthropology degree is to teach anthropology to more anthropology students, he argues, well, you're just stuck in that circle. So after all of that, after all the data, the analogies, the lists of good and bad majors, what's the big takeaway? The author boils his entire argument down to one final, really challenging question about how you see the world. And here it is. This is the central, uncomfortable question the author leaves you with. He basically reframes the whole choice of a major. It's not a journey of self-discovery. It's one of the biggest financial decisions you will ever make. And he's asking you, are you making that choice based on your feelings, or are you making it based on the reality of the market? It's a really provocative thought, and it forces you to think hard about what college is actually for.